fine wine takes time. Another week passed at the darkening vineyard. At the very same heavy door, a second emissary was calling, this one a woman, who recently was making an extra diligent effort to learn reading and writing. She was a plainly dressed servant, from a family of servants and messengers, and she was puzzling over a simple, silly sign that was tacked to the door. She read it aloud as best she could.
Welk trailers. We are gold. Fork, dinner, comfy, bright. Ring your muscles. Well, look after them too.
That's not the password, stupid,
said a rude, mocking voice.
Fine wine takes time. That's the password. Always has been. Never changed. You got it all wrong, stupid.
From within came a strange, wolfish, humanish yowl that sounded like, If the messenger was learning to read, the wolves, in human form, were learning to speak, or at least learning to repeat, like a parrot, what they could hear.
What's that sound?
Said the messenger, alarmed. She was not alone. With her had come 2 well-armed escorts, and all 3 were on horses. At the sound of the wolfish yowl, the horses had snorted, stomped, and now they yanked at their reins.
Let us in,
the brown and gray messenger demanded. One escort drew a double-edged straight sword. The other raised a crossbow, ready to shoot.
The thing is,
said the tenant leader, sticking his head out the watch window like a tortoise head out of a shell.
We had a festival last night. The place is a mess, so sorry.
He stared, innocent and apologetic, at the aimed crossbow.
Give us time to tidy up. Can you come back to call in an hour? So sorry for the inconvenience. Though you really shouldn't show up without notice. It's unfair. Frankly, it's rather rude.
The tenant popped back, a tortoise head into its shell. The crossbowman steamed, wishing he had permission to take the shot. Right through the eye, the bolt would have hit, he imagined it, but the chance was lost. The messenger knew this could go badly. Her anxiety rose, even as her courage rose to reach the necessary balance. Her orders, clearly received, were to find out what was going on inside these walls, and then to inform the landlord. However, finding out what was going on required looking inside. Quietly to herself, she said,
This is my final proof of loyalty.
Because she carried in her heart the landlord's recent promise of release from service. She would be free to start a family of her own. She thought of her lord's face as he spoke to her, and the kindness of his eyes. She thought back at her life of serving him, tending to his errands up to this day, watching the respectable man as he aged towards retirement, with no children to call his own. He did once have a family, they said, but they had died of a pestilence. Such things happen. She wondered if the Lord might possibly choose to marry her, a girl of low status. Was such a thing proper? She was uneducated, much younger. Could she have a child with him? If so, they would all live out here in the countryside, far away from city crowds and judgmental socialites, close to nature, but safe from the worst of it, within these walls. The messenger spoke again, less quietly.
These walls were meant,
she said,
to keep bad things out.
She looked to each of the escort guards.
And now, these walls give bad things shelter.
She could feel the difference, having come here a few times as a messenger to the previous tenants, the good ones, people who greeted her warmly, promptly. In contrast, this pack of squatters were abusing the privilege of residing within. She knew they must be holding the educated emissary hostage, or something worse was going on. In a sudden moment, bars and bolts were heard sliding and shifting. Access was being granted. Were these bad tenants coming to their senses?
I'm going in,
said the messenger, future mother to the heir of the estate. Or so she fantasized. One guard, unflinching, was ready to face the risk of the unknown at her side, and the other, with the crossbow, shook his head.
Bad idea, he whispered.
Look, I need to confirm the shape of things within,
she said.
I need to see, not only feel or imagine. I need to go in.
The sword man entered first, then she, with a long stabbing dagger and a light shield. They were mounted on their jittery horses, and had to duck low to fit through the opened doorway. The crossbow man had a different task. He was to remain outside, taking aim at and shooting anything hostile. Most importantly, he must be ready to race to the city and report if the estate was held by enemies. He must survive if she did not. What did the inside look like? Was it better or worse than the rough, neglected exterior? How badly overgrown were the vines? The messenger finally saw for herself. She could not, unfortunately, emerge to tell of it. She hollered a pre-arranged warning call, and the crossbowman performed his primary duty, galloping off to report that the worst had occurred, that the occupants were indeed hostile. Such was the unfolding of events that day at the retirement estate, that nothing more either entered or emerged, with one exception. The haggard but colorful birdfowl launched from its high roost on the roof. It swept out over the wall and down, landing at a distance, as though it knew the place was safe no more for occupation. Indeed, the owner would need no less than an army to bring about a restoration.